Hello, everyone, and welcome to this discussion about coping mechanisms. And I'm joined today by Judy Johnson, who is over in Auckland, New Zealand. Welcome, Judy.
Good morning, Nikki. I'm excited to join you this morning.
Thank you very much for agreeing to come on here. Now, I'm going to do a very brief introduction and I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself as well. So, I am childless not by choice because I had my endometriosis was diagnosed very late on. I was 40 and I'd only recently married my second husband. So, just the timing was all wrong, particularly as I had fertility issues. What about you, Judy?
So I'm also CNBC by circumstance. Um, Chronic illness as a child going into adulthood with lots of strong drugs, a dysfunctional childhood leading to dysfunctional adult relationships. I think that resonates with a lot of people. And once I actually felt safe with my second husband to have children, I was too old really. So that led to me not going on even the fertility journey, unfortunately.
So, in some ways similar, in some ways different, and that's often the way, isn't it? Yeah.
Mm, mm.
Where can people find out a little bit about more about you and your work because you work within the community?
Certainly. So I'm a specialist grief coach and I work with people that are childless not by choice. My website is embraceyourfuture.net and my Facebook group is CNBC Grief. We'll put the links in under this recording.
That's great, thank you. So today, I'm sorry, I'm getting a bit of glare from my glasses. So today we're going to be talking about coping mechanisms. Can you explain a little bit about what they are, what you mean by that?
Certainly. So when we're grieving, we can often reach emotional overwhelm. It might be a trigger, such as hearing a piece of music, driving past a particular place that holds memories. Somebody might say something that triggers us, or emotions might just suddenly appear. We don't know where they've come from. Um, and so when we reach emotional overwhelm, we can start to get anxious. And then that anxiety leads to panic, our breathing speeds up, we can hyperventilate. And each time this happens, the situation can worsen because we dread what happened the last time. And so the next time it happens, we think, oh my God, the same thing's going to happen. And so we reach that overwhelm quicker, we reach the panic quicker. And if we don't take control of these things, they take control of us essentially. So it's finding something that we can do that grounds us, that just brings us back into the moment, takes us out of that emotional overwhelm.
That's brilliant. And you're so right, it can hit at almost any time. So I can remember, I might be washing my hair or doing the cooking, and I'd be suddenly hit by this wave of grief um, for for no obvious reason. Or perhaps at work, there's somebody who's recently had a baby and they've brought their newborn in to work, and sometimes it's possible to escape, etc., and other times there aren't. Um, or you could be in the supermarket or in the park or those sorts of things. So a coping mechanism can help us to weather that wave of grief. And are there different types of coping mechanisms you can do in different situations?
Absolutely. And, some of the mechanisms are you can be sitting here now and I can do it. Others, we need to take ourselves out. So I use four short coping mechanisms to help with clients. We use some longer ones, which we can't demonstrate today simply because they're a bit more complex. But the four that I use, so you mentioned being at home washing your hair. Okay, you've got to get out of the shower to do this. I concede with that point. But when you're at home, one of the ones that I like to use, I've got this jar. You can have a box, you can have a jar, any container will do, doesn't matter. So in this jar, you can see I've got lots of post-it notes. And on that post-it notes are written things that I could do in, say, 10 to 30 minutes. They need to be things that work for me, that I enjoy doing, and they need to be achievable now. Don't pick something that's seasonal. You don't want to pull the first note out of that jar when you're in emotional overwhelm and think, oh no, I can't do that one, because it's not going to work for you. So, first one I've pulled out, do a pre-recorded meditation. Now, I know that that's guaranteed to bring my breathing back down to normal. It's going to bring me back to the moment. It's going to center me. So that always works for me. Another one that I love to do, go and learn a new line dance. I've got them already sitting there on my laptop, and I just start playing it. By the time I've got confused which foot's going where, the emotional overwhelm's gone. Um, walk to the viewpoint on Glover Park. Well, that's just round the corner from me. It's always there. It's beautiful. Sea, volcanic island, stunning. So sit down with a pile of post-it notes, write yourself on each note something that you like to do, whether that's getting a scented bath, watching some comedy on YouTube, which I know is something that Nikki likes to do. Pop them in your jar, and when you reach emotional overwhelm, go get your jar, pop your hand in, pull out one of your notes and do exactly that one.
I really love those ideas. You do have to remember, though, if you're going to YouTube, to make sure that it is saved so you can go straight to it. So, what about something that is in the workplace? So, for example, somebody bringing in their newborn baby.
Sure, yeah. And you could use this around the dinner table at Christmas when somebody announces a pregnancy, or the topics from your mother-in-law get a bit pressurized about what about you two having children, or as Nikki says, it could be in the workplace, it could be anywhere. So this is square breathing, and it's going to bring you back into the moment. So you visualize a square as you breathe. I'll demonstrate it in a moment, but I can't do the breathing and explain it. So you breathe in for 4, a count of 4. You hold for a count of 4. You breathe out for a count of 4. You hold for a count of 4. So you're visualizing as you're doing those breaths that you're drawing that square with your breath. There's lots of other breathing techniques where we can hold for 7 and breathe out for 8 and do different combinations, but you can get so caught up in the counting that you get so distracted that that would then become obvious when you're surrounded by other people. So I will just do this with you. Now, you're not going to use your finger, but if you do at least 4 cycles of square breathing, in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4, that will calm you in that moment. If you could manage 6, it's going to work a bit better. If you could manage 8, it's going to work even better. Okay, so that's something you can do wherever you are without anyone being able to see it. You might even be in the supermarket and just leaning against the milk shelf, looking like you're looking at the milk, and you could do that there. So that's a useful one when you don't want anyone to see and you don't want to be embarrassed because you've had to run out of the room because you were overwhelmed.
Thank you, Judy. That's great. You mentioned the 478 technique, and yes, it can get a bit confusing where you are. What I found, because I use breathing techniques a lot, is that I do them 2, 3, or 4 times a day, regardless of whether I actually need them, because there are a lot of health benefits anyway. And the advantage of doing that is that they then become hardwired. You know exactly how to do them, and you're practicing them in a less stressful environment anyway. So when you come to need them, you know exactly what you're doing. So that's something just to bear in mind. Now, you mentioned when perhaps doing something when you're out in the park. I had a huge triggering moment years ago when I was with my goddaughter. Her mother was in a business meeting. I was looking after my goddaughter, who was about 6 at the time. And we ended up being in the park just round the corner from where my friend was having her meeting, waiting for her to finish. And I almost got to the end. And then suddenly this wave of emotion hit. And it was all to do with the fact that I was swinging my goddaughter on a swing rather. And I suddenly realized that I would never do that for my own child. And the memories of that situation lasted with me so long that I actually, about 3 years ago, wrote a poem about the empty swing because the emotions were so strong and overpowering. So, what could I have done in that sort of situation?
I've got a couple of things here for you. One of them perhaps best when you're on your own, but you could do this. So this is single nostril breathing. And you simply sit, left hand on left knee. You're just connecting to yourself. You lift your right hand and you put your right thumb on your nose and your left finger on your nose. Now, what you do is you exhale completely first, just clear your lungs out. And then you put your finger on your left nostril and you inhale. Sorry, you put your finger on your nostril, you inhale completely. And then you hold, and then you put your thumb on your nostril and you exhale completely. Now, as you're doing this, or as I'm doing this, I visualize almost, I guess, a solid breath. So I visualize I'm drawing that breath in. I can see it. And then I'm visualizing that breath going across inside my nostril. And then I'm visualizing exhaling it. And as I'm visualizing that breath, I'm visualizing it being calm as it comes in. And as I exhale, I'm visualizing exhaling that emotional overwhelm. So I'm swapping calm for overwhelm. I'm drawing in calm, breathing out overwhelm. Okay. So literally, I go. Now, if you can close your eyes while you're doing this, it will help you. But if you can't, you can still continue with that. Now, you need to do several cycles of that. You could picture breathing in a relaxing color and breathing out the emotional overwhelm, which might be anger. You might give that a color as well. But either way, you're going to visualize that breath in and out. The other thing that